In April 2020, as COVID-19 began to tear through Latin America, the leftist bloc in the Paraguayan Senate introduced a bill to open relations with Beijing, which would inevitably mean ending recognition of Taiwan. The senators argued that the pandemic would make Chinese support in the form of masks and ventilators, but also investment, trade, and possibly a vaccine crucial in the coming years. In the end, the proposal was voted down 25-16 in a Senate still controlled by the right-wing party Stroessner founded. Still, opposition lawmakers have forged ahead in deepening their institutional ties with China, eliciting what they described as the first ever Chinese humanitarian aid to Paraguay in June, and vowing to recognize the country if the balance of power in Congress shifts. The political debate in Paraguay reflects a broader battle raging across Latin America as countries in the region grapple with a cascade of challenges to their developing economies. They increasingly look not to the north but to the east. Today, China is South America's top trading partner. In 2019, Chinese companies invested $12.8 billion in Latin America, up to 16.5% from 2018, concentrating on regional infrastructure such as ports, roads, dams, and railways. Chinese purchases of minerals and agricultural commodities helped South America stave off the worst privations of the 2008 financial crisis. And during COVID-19, Latin America is once again reliant on China, whose middle class drives demand for beef from Uruguay, copper from Chile, oil from Colombia, and soya from Brazil. These are the commodities that will help Latin America weather the storm, and China will inevitably be the primary customer. We'd rather not be so dependent on exports to China, but what is the alternative? Paulo Estevalet, Brazil's ambassador to China, tells Time. It's just more profitable to sell here than anywhere else. For China, the investment brings political returns. In the past 4 years, the Dominican Republic, El Salvador, and Panama have each switched their recognition from Taiwan to China. Gaining this kind of alliances in Latin America offers Beijing invaluable votes at the UN and backing for Chinese appointees to multinational institutions. It also empowers China to embed standard-setting technology companies like Huawei, ZTE, Dahua, and Hikvision, all sanctioned by the US, in regional infrastructure, allowing Beijing to dictate the rules of commerce for a generation. Already, 19 governments across Latin America and the Caribbean have joined Xi Jinping's Signature Belt and Road Initiative BRI, a $1 trillion transcontinental trade and infrastructure network. Shanghai-based China COSCO Shipping is building a new $3 billion port at Chancay in Peru, while there are ambitious proposals for a transcontinental railway linking South America's Atlantic and Pacific coast from Brazil to Chile. COVID-19 presented another opportunity. By late October, China had provided over 179 billion masks, 1.73 billion protective suits, and 543 million testing kits to 150 countries and 7 international organizations around the globe. The pandemic has opened up a diplomatic opportunity that China did not have before, says Benjamin N. Gaidan, a former South American director on the White House's National Security Council, now with the Wilson Center. This has not gone unnoticed by Washington. The U.S. State Department's Jay Baru, charged with elevating and integrating civilian security in U.S. foreign policy, has been parsing China's mask diplomacy to decipher where Beijing is attempting to gain influence, sources involved tell Time. Globally, the lines of a new Cold War are gaining definition. The US, Europe, India, and Pacific allies on one side, China, Russia, Pakistan, Central and Southeast Asia on the other. It's not yet clear where the Sikh curtain will fall in Latin America, but Beijing's activity has Washington spooked. China is a malign influence, a senior State Department official tells Time on condition of anonymity. This is part of the CCP's global plan to export Chinese ideals and bad practices beyond the Asia-Pacific, the official says, referring to the Chinese Communist Party. The question now, with a new occupant of the White House, is what the US will do about it. The US has long been a cherry of interlopers in its southern neighborhood. The Monroe Doctrine drew a red line regarding European influence in the Western Hemisphere, and for decades in the 20th century, the US fought the Cold War with Soviet Russia on the turf of Latin nations attracted to Marxism. But President Donald Trump viewed Latin America largely through a caustic lens of drug lords, immigrant caravans, and gang violence, His sole visit to the region was the 2018 G20 summit in Buenos Aires. Now with Joe Biden in the White House, the battle for influence is likely to flare up once again. As Vice President, Biden visited the region a record 16 times, and he personifies the good neighbor approach to the region crafted by FDR. Biden was Barack Obama's point person on initiatives to combat violence and drugs in Colombia, political corruption in Guatemala, and more. Joe Biden brings a deeper knowledge of Latin America and the Caribbean to the presidency than any U.S. leader since the end of the Cold War, says Michael Camilleri, director of the Peter D. Bell Rule of Law program at the Inter-American Dialogue. U.S. ties run deep across Latin America, but perhaps deeper in Panama, where the U.S. dominated commerce and politics throughout the 20th century and which has emerged as a battleground in the superpower contest. The country's namesake canal through which trade flows between the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean was completely by the U.S. Army and controlled by Washington for almost the entire century. In the 1940s, the U.S. Department of Commerce helped set up a free trade zone in Colon, a city near the canal's entrance. The Colon Free Trade Zone, ZLC, quickly became a gateway for American firms such as Gillette, Coca-Cola, Visa to enter the Latin American market. Yet today, 7 decades later, things have changed in the ZLC. Across its 1,000-hectare sprawl of ports, warehouses, and offices, Chinese companies dominate. China accounts for the largest share of imports that came into the zone, 40% of the total, says Giovanni Ferrari, manager of the zone. Ferrari says the surge of Chinese products began around 2010, and he expects it to grow as China seeks to boost its trade with the rest of the world in the wake of the pandemic. China has identified the potential of Panama and the ZLC as a reference point for distribution. China's growing commercial presence in the ZLC reflects the enthusiasm it has long had for Panama, which remains a strategic linchpin for Washington. There is more to the story, but we hope to bring you more subsequently. Gab Ellison reporting for Undaunted, ABC Amber News.